moment a little bit later than normal here this evening that are our guests and our hosts, and we would like them to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if any of our Honor Society students and Key Clubs, if you could come up on this stage, we're going to put you right on the spot. We want everyone to hear you loud and proud.
That's including the students handing papers.
That includes the students handing papers out. I know it's really out of your comfort zones, but it's super important. Come on up and lead us in the pledge just this once. We really appreciate it. Yeah, we're doing all night.
Is it? Yeah. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Sorry for the delay. And thank you again, students, for coming and participating. It's really important part of our process here at General McLane, but also just as you go, going out in the way, being citizens in your communities, it's always good to have public participation wherever you go. So thank you for your service tonight. Sarah, would you please call roll?
Okay, Mrs. Crow?
Here.
Mrs. Gould? Here. Mr. Ickes?
Present.
Mrs. King? Here. Mr. Lofgren?
Present.
Mrs. Miller? Mr. Patullo? Mr. Scholes?
Here.
And Dr. White?
Here.
All right.
Usually we still do the pledge now. Thank you. At this time, we will have recognition of visitors for matters related to the agenda.
Yeah, we have Michelle Rutman Piper and Kathleen Higgins.
Okay, great. And so first, if we could have Michelle Rutman Piper. At this point in the meeting, the board will recognize all speakers who wish to speak on matters related to the agenda. As a reminder, if you have not pre-registered to speak, we ask that you please state your name and address at the beginning. Before the board recognizes Michelle Rutman Piper as a speaker tonight, you have 5 minutes to speak regarding the health and safety plan. Please state, I'm sorry, if you could please state your name for the beginning and then your time begins. Oh, of course, yeah.
I like to educate as I go, so.
Are we gonna be able to get some medical credits?
Good evening, board members. And boy, it is a pleasure to see you without a mask on your face. So Nice to see smiling faces for those that want to smile, and those that don't want to be here, you might have a little grumpy face, but you'll have to put up with it for a few minutes here. The reason I'm coming back up tonight is to talk about the health and safety plan. What I had just given you is the Pfizer BioNTech adverse reactions that the government made the FDA or the government made them disclose. This is found on the FDA website. I have the complete study from this, the vaccine reactions. This is from the Pfizer BioNTech. So one of the things I wanted to point out that there's 9 pages of adverse reactions. This comes right from at the bottom right. You'll see it comes right from the FDA. This was one of the things that I discussed before about not having a vaccine clinic in our schools. Not only do the young children have a 99.9%, 98% survival rate and 0 deaths, they also have, they have a less than 11% efficacy rate for those that are 5 to 11 years old. Okay. I'm showing you these documents because it's of concern to me as a parent and especially as a parent of a vaccine injured child, that by putting a vaccine clinic on our school grounds, even though the parents sign off, they may not know all the different adverse reactions that are out there. This is not made up. This is directly from Pfizer. This is the information that they wanted to squash for 70 years. 70 years. The first thing I wanted to say is IP36 deletion syndrome. If anybody doesn't know what that is, that means that you end up with an intellectual disability. Okay. And it goes on and on. You can look at these pages. All these are reactions to the vaccine. And not to say that there's many doctors who have not wanted the vaccine and had put up information about them. Dr. Ryan Cole said these vaccines do not prevent acquisition of the disease, does not prevent transmission of the disease, does not prevent illness from the disease, and does not prevent death from the disease. Given that all this, including the many pages, I think it's 1,396 conditions were found from these vaccines, I'm asking as a board that you vote tonight or put it on the agenda to remove any further vaccine clinics on our campus. I don't care if it's being sponsored by another entity such as LECOM. You're using our taxpayer money to open up our facilities. You're using our manpower that we pay for to help coordinate this. This is not what we're about. We're not a health professional. We're not giving medical care. That is not our job. Our job is that of education in the young minds. And I'm sorry that many of you who might have taken this vaccine might not have known this, but the information was out there. And I'm asking you to remove it from the health and safety plan. Also, if you did not know, many doctors who are doing sports physicals are having to do EKGs and additional blood work for those students that did have the Pfizer or one of the mRNA vaccinations. And that is because, as you might know, if you haven't found this out, it does cause myocarditis. And part of doing the physicals for PIAA is to determine if the person is able to exert and play sports. So some doctors are not even doing physicals, and other ones are making them do EKGs and additional blood work before they'll even clear them due to the myocarditis from these vaccines. So I ask you as a school board tonight to make the right decision and to not get in the business of being a healthcare provider, but be in the business of education and remove any further COVID-19 experimental vaccines off the health and safety plan. It is not your job. It is the parents' job and their medical provider to decide if they want to vaccinate their children. How many more people need to die? How many more people need to have adverse reactions? These reactions can come on years from now.
typical, I'm interrupting you real quick just to make a vote. Is there a vote to continue for another, is a minute okay, Michelle, or 2 minutes? How about 2 minutes? Vote to
Yeah.
proceed?
That'd be fine.
So move, all in favor? Aye. Thank you.
Thank you. I also ask that you also remove the authority from both the superintendent and pandemic coordinator to mask the children at any time they feel free. That is giving full authorization to utilize a medical device on a person's face. I bet you all the teachers would say they're so happy to see the smiling faces of all these children. The loss of learning has been significant. As I mentioned last time, there's 26 letters in the alphabet and 25 facial expressions that you cannot see when a child wears a mask. I also want to say that unless you can show me a scientific proven study that shows that masks do not work, I'm not talking about what the CDC says, actual peer-reviewed studies that the masks actually work 100% from causing or transmission the COVID, I'd be happy to look at that. But for now, no one has been able to show that this works. It's been nothing but a hoax to put our children in masks. And I want to ask you to please remove the authority from the school superintendent and the pandemic coordinator to put masks on children. Again, they're considered medical devices, and it's not their job to decide what is best for the health of their children. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. We do appreciate you taking the time to engage with the board this evening and for speaking with us. Next, we will hear from, the board will recognize,
Kathleen Higgins.
hang on, Kathleen, give me 1 second. I gotta make sure I've got my, okay. Yes, we know you're pre-registered to speak, and we appreciate you have 5 minutes to speak, and you are here to speak about the health and safety plan, correct?
Yes.
Please state your name, which you did, and your time begins now. Thank you.
1 second. Okay. Wanted to thank the board for your service. I know that the last several months have been, well, they've been hell for you guys, and I always haven't been easy. Pushing the limits of questions and making sure that everybody has transparency. I really want to appreciate Sarah G for all the hard work and the correspondence that she's had with our group. She's always been diligent, happy to do so, and more than accommodating. So I definitely want to make sure that we acknowledge the things that go right, because it's often so easy to overlook the things that go right versus it's easier to look at the things that are wrong versus the things that are right. So it's kind of like a new leaf. I'm turning over an attitude of gratitude, and I hope it extends to the board as well. And so some of the things that have been recommended to our group is more of an ask, a why, and a solution. And so a little bit of Michelle's speech was going to be sort of mine, and I am asking to have you guys remove in the health and safety plan any language about mask. It was considered void ab initio on December 10th, 2021, the PA Supreme Court, that they did not have any, there's no legal standing. So if the PA Supreme Court says there's no legal standing, I'm really not sure how there's any authority that Dr. Lane or the superintendent or the pandemic coordinator have any authority at all to do that. So it needs to be removed from the language at all. So again, we are the parents, you're the board of education, and we respect with what you do, because I didn't ask to be on the board of education. I didn't run for office. You guys did. And so we put a lot of faith in what you're doing, and you're doing due diligence with what you're doing. And our group is kind of like a watchdog group. We're waking up and what's going on in our community and how to better serve our community is asking questions, finding out the why, and also looking for solutions. And so the solution is, let us be the parents and you guys educate. And we want you to do that. And another part of what I wanted to talk about, and Michelle covered the whole thing basically of the, masks don't work, yada, 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 and you don't really need to hear that. But one of the things that was concerning to me, and I looked up the statistics in General McLane, and I looked at it briefly late at night, and it was the algebra and the mathematics portion. And it struck me as very odd because we had failing points, I understand. Was that right? that we're not doing very well in algebra and pre-algebra in our mathematics. Am I incorrect that I looked at something wrong? It was below average. So, but irregardless, go ahead. You want to say?
Well, I think you're asking two separate questions, and if you could stay on task with the health and safety plan, but
But
I think you're asking something
I
else
had
that,
written in my answer to,
I'm sorry,
Sarah.
the question you just asked was about like what, performance was. So keep going.
right. Well, when I wrote in, I just want to make sure that I was clear that I wrote about the health and safety plan and the curriculum. So my daughter is very good at math. She's very easily bored. If it's not, she's done. She's tapped out. She's on to the next 10 things. She's 10 feet ahead of me, which is really wild. So I worry about her being a child that is not challenged. If she's not challenged, and I'm hearing about these algebra classes and the teacher has all these different things to do, that's a disservice to those students that are at the lower end and also at the higher end. I was a lower end student. I worked and clawed my way through high school. I had a tutor from 7th grade on. Probably should have had one further on. Math never clicked for me. God love my daughter for being able to do that. You can get it for me. But why dumb down? Why have everybody be one form of mathematics? Why not challenge the students to rise above? Isn't that what General McLane is supposed to be known for? Why not get additional teachers? Make it possible. A+ education. That is my ask. I gave you the why is to challenge students to better, and the solution is to hire more teachers to teach more advanced classes and or lower developmental classes, or have teachers aides in the classes to better serve the students of General McLane. Again, bring back, all the learning loss that's happened. We can't get that back right now, but we can move forward. And that's what I'm asking the board to do. So yeah, you'll get a couple more emails from me, but that's all I really have to say. Thank you again for your service and having to deal with a million emails, but it is what it is and we're moving forward.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you, Kathleen. We appreciate you engaging with the board, and we do really thank you for speaking tonight. And so now we would have consideration of minutes of the regular monthly study session that. Oh, I thought we only had two.
Only on the agenda.
Oh, I'm sorry. I did not realize we had another 5-minute speaker. Okay.
3 minutes. 3 minutes. Because she's not on the agenda.
Doesn't that go towards the back though?
She's talking about a topic related to the agenda.
I understand. I'm sorry. I'm not privy to all of the background that they have.
She has her address.
And we appreciate the fact, we understand that you have filled out the form. We appreciate that. Just to make yourself familiar, if you could just insert your name, and you do have the 3 minutes to speak with us tonight. And as soon as you state your name, then your time will begin.
First of all, I would just like to thank the board for allowing me to speak.
Would you just hold on for 1 second?
Sure.
all that. Just, you'll be sensitive to not use any names. We don't have consent of any individual. Okay, so if you would,
Absolutely. There's
thank
no
you.
name.
All right, thank you.
My name is Andrea Wells, and I live at 106 Maple Drive in Edinburgh. I'm here to voice my concerns about the lack of adherence to board policy as it pertains to item 9A of tonight's agenda, specifically the approval of athletic supplemental contracts for the 22-23 school year. It is my understanding per the Board Policy Code of Conduct, Section 000 Code 11, that the board is charged with the following duties: ensure effective practices for evaluation of staff and programs, and use data appropriately to make informed decisions. These standards were not followed by members of the Policy and Co-Curricular Activities Committee during the process of evaluating the former head football coach. A few years ago, there was a call to ensure more objectivity in the coaching recommendation process due to perceived subjectivity in past decision-making. The school board suggested a more rigorous and detailed coaching evaluation, and a new committee was formed to monitor its implementation. This sounds like an effective practice if the committee did what it was intended. It is evident that the quantitative data of the former football coach's evaluation was not considered. All board members, are you aware that on his December 17th evaluation, he received an above average rating on 80% of the items and an overall score of 96%? Most would consider this an excellent score, worthy of being recommended for another season. The subcommittee didn't communicate this to you, did they? And why didn't they or the administration use empirical data to make an informed decision? Why have an objective evaluation process if the decision is to be made with subjective reasoning anyway? They might as well eliminate all the paperwork and admit that decisions will be made on a basis of personal conviction and bias. Ironically, the former football coach was given a perfect score on the section evaluating his performance in meeting the mission and core values of the district. Yet he was fired due to the inability to come to an agreement on a shared vision of the program. Since mission statements and vision statements are two different things, and GM doesn't appear to have a vision statement for its athletic program, I did some research to see what other schools state, and I found a common thread about the importance of developing young men of character, both on and off the field, and the goal of functioning as a team to win. Sounds pretty on par with the former football coach's 21 winning seasons and the Character Matters program that he's promoted for the past 24 years. I asked the board, how do you really evaluate the lack of a shared vision when the program doesn't actually have a vision statement and there's no way to measure a potential discrepancy because vision standards aren't even addressed in the evaluation? The decision to pull his name from the agenda on February 16th, after recommending him at the study session the previous week, is as subjective as it gets. It is a travesty that you would simply dismiss this Hall of Fame state championship coach who's given 25 years of loyalty, blood, sweat, tears to this district, sternly offering him no other option but to resign. It reflects extremely poorly on this district. You know it, the people of this school know it, and the community knows it. Members of the Policy and the Co-Curricular Activities Committee, shame on you for allowing personal bias to influence what should have been an objective process. And shame on you, administration, for not going with the original recommendation that you made to the board that was based on an outstanding, objective evaluation. Thank you.
Thank you. We appreciate you engaging with this board, and we thank you for speaking.
Thank you.
And I would not want to make that mistake again. So was there anyone else that did want to address the board this evening for matters that are related to the agenda? There will be another opportunity at the end. I just wanted to make sure I didn't miss anyone at this time. And if not, then we would move on to consideration of the minutes of the regular monthly study session that occurred on February the 9th, as well as consideration of the minutes of the regular monthly meeting that occurred on February the 16th. Those minutes are available in draft form. Did anyone have any changes or necessary modifications? Comments? Dr. Wise made a motion to approve. Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. Opposed? Same sign. consider those minutes passed. Thank you. Superintendent's report. Dr. Lane.
Thank you, Mrs. Crow. Last time that we had a presentation involving Mr. Kanata, I spoke for way too long and took nearly every portion of the introduction that he was going to provide for the presentation that was going to take place, and he could speak to it much better than I did, and he reminded me of that after the fact. So we will let Mr. Kanata go ahead and introduce our CBI presentation for community-based instruction from Mr. Lucas and Mrs. Iaquinta. Thank you.
Good evening, everyone. With us tonight, we have Amy Iaquinta, who is our high school life skills support teacher. Amy's been in the district for 5 years. She did start with us in the McCain Elementary and the autistic program, then moved in the last couple of years to the high school autistic or high school life skills classroom. As well as we have Zach Lucas, who is the high school autistic support classroom. And he also spent some time in the middle school as our autistic support classroom. So they bring a depth of knowledge to this particular subject. Before Amy is with us, she worked for the city of Erie for 15 years in life skills. And Zach had worked at Fairview and Northeast in the autistic support classroom. So definitely a lot of depth of knowledge. Tonight, they're going to talk about CBIs. And in special ed, we like to use a lot of acronyms. And so what CBIs is, that's community-based instruction. And that's something that we do at all levels of both the life skills and autistic support classrooms at General McLane. And it does look different at each of those levels. And something we talked about a few years ago is really developing a solid curriculum for that, so it's consistent and it looks the same between each building, and we have a progression. And they've done a lot of work with their departments to develop this plan and this curriculum. And I think you're going to be pretty well informed on what community-based instruction looks like at GM when they're done with their presentation. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it over to Amy and Zach to go ahead and present.
Hi, everyone. My name is Zach Lucas, and like Mr. Kanata said, Amy and myself are here to present on our curriculum that we helped write for the community-based instruction program. Is it on the thing? Sweet.
Okay, so you're probably wondering, it's not on the big screen. You guys are. Okay. What is community-based instruction? And community-based instruction is an instructional strategy that has evidence-based practices as outlined by the National Technical Assistance Center on Transitions. CBI promotes relevancy, independence, confidence, work-related skills, mobility, and participation in society. So that's just an overall definition, and we'll tell you a little more.
So we kind of think of it as what should community-based instruction look like? And we really come down to a couple important aspects. It should always be relevant and based off of a predetermined curriculum. It should be functional and facilitate independence for our students. It should be regularly scheduled for a set amount of time. It should be age respectful based on the individual student. And it should be related to the long-term needs of the student.
Can you go one more? There you go. Okay, now we're caught up. All right, so there are many research-based benefits for students with intellectual disabilities and autism to participate in the community-based instruction curriculum that we've provided to you. As you can see with a handbook and the curriculum that we've set forth, the special education department here at General McLane finds this a valuable learning tool for our students. Some of the benefits that we see, but are not limited to, the following. We monitor progress reports towards IEP goals. We look for a transfer of skill from the classroom to the natural environment. Community-based instruction builds self-esteem. It allows opportunities for inclusive interactions. It promotes familiarity with the community and develops pre-vocational and vocational skills. CBI also fosters the importance of communication skills and enhances the child's quality of life.
So we, along with Mr. Kanata and Dr. Carnes, worked on developing a curriculum for our community-based instruction program, and this is a K through 12 curriculum. And we broke our curriculum down into the modules that you can see above. We are going to focus on academics, post-secondary, employment and vocational, daily living, community relations, and recreation and leisure. And all of those can be seen in the curriculum map. I believe everyone was provided a copy. Is that accurate?
Yes, okay.
So starting with academics, CBI allows for the transfer of academic skills learned in the classrooms and allows it to be applied authentically in the community. Social skills instructions is embedded in the day-to-day classroom activities for students as young as kindergarten. These skills must be taught systematically in the beginning and then transferred into the real world through instruction. The CBI curriculum that has been developed allows for a variety of settings that this can take place, even for our youngest to our oldest students. Functional reading and math skills, again, are taught within the four walls of our classroom. Throughout the thoughtful planning of CBI, these skills are transferred to hands-on real-world experiences.
The next module of our curriculum will focus on post-secondary. Within this, the program allows students to understand and explore post-secondary options that are available to them based on their individual needs. We will allow and provide students with opportunities to research post-secondary opportunities, allow them to visit post-secondary campuses, help them apply for post-secondary education, as well as help facilitate allowing them to get involved with agencies such as Erie County Care Management and the Office of Vocational Rehabilitation.
The next section is in employment and vocational strategies. And using the transition planning at General McLane, the special education staff can provide experiences for students based on their current level of functioning and their individual interest. In school, we work on training that incorporates pre-vocational tasks that the students can perform with a job coach, a teacher, or a peer while in one of our GM buildings. In school, pre-vocational training may include volunteer work, sorting the mail, delivering copies to teachers, recycling, watering plants, and many other tasks. We also have some unpaid work experiences that have been done in the past with groups or individual students. At the high school, for example, students work at the GM Cafe and the general store. Paid work experience is also moving higher up the continuum, and this is dependent upon the child's ability to work as independently as possible. Here at GM, we have a program called GM Works, and this kind of helps facilitate that process.
The next module focuses on daily living. In this module, the program provides students with instruction in the areas that allow them to complete day-to-day activities. These include food preparation, personal hygiene, health, safety, and independent living skills.
Working with the community is of high priority. So we spend a lot of time reaching out to agencies and businesses here in the Edinboro and McCain area. Students are provided with opportunities to build relationships within their community and with community members throughout acts of service. This is a two-way relationship where students in our program reach out to various community resources and businesses to provide services. On the other side, the businesses are providing students with valuable community-based instruction that meets the individual learning needs of the child. Volunteer opportunities such as planting the planters and painting park stones with the Washington Township Park have been done. Assembling goodie bags for local agencies have also been completed. These work sites provide ongoing support and acceptance from the public for our students to learn how to become as independent as possible upon graduation. Students also become familiar with the community, and these skills can then be transferred into their home lives with their families.
This is the last one. The last module of our curriculum focuses on recreation and leisure. In this area, the program focused on learn social skills from the classroom and allowing them to be transferred to the community environment in a way of reinforcing social norms within a community setting. Examples of this would be dining out, shopping within the community, practicing community safety, physical fitness activities, and group and independent activities. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about partial with this component was we started a adapted ski and snowshoe program this year with the help of the Special Olympics. And we did a 6-week long course at Mount Pleasant. All the students went from not even knowing how to ski to most of them were making it down the hill completely independently. And that is a social norm and a recreation thing that they were able to complete completely on their own independently. And then we're able to go there any Friday that the ski hill was open and participate in something that every single student at General McLane would have the ability to do. So that was like a really big success of our program this year. And there's a picture in the bottom right-hand corner of all the students that were a part of that program.
So there are many different types of community-based instruction that we try and incorporate within the Edinboro and McCain community. Again, we really try and stick to this area because we know the value of the students learning about the community that we live in. So we have a handbook that we've provided to you, and then also on this slide, you can see that there's many agencies and businesses that have tremendous support for us in the community. Planning for each individual student takes time and commitment so that they have a plan that will meet them where they are and that will allow them to learn so that they can become all that they are meant to be. We would like to welcome the opportunity for you to offer any suggestions of any local businesses or programs that we may not be aware of. We welcome those suggestions. This is just a very short list. We have many, many more, but again, if you have any suggestions, we'd appreciate it.
So the last slide, we would just like to thank everyone for allowing us to speak. And this is something that we are very passionate about and kind of started a couple years ago, like Mr. Kanata said, and really transformed into this curriculum that we have to presented you today. So we really just appreciate you hearing us out and listening to what we have created. And we would like to extend an offer to everyone. Tomorrow, we are going to be hosting a ice cream social celebration for our high school boys basketball team for being the District 10 champs and beating Cathedral Prep. I want to make sure that's said. We beat Cathedral Prep. And so our students are actually preparing a ice cream sundae bar. They're going to provide all of the basketball players with ice cream. They can make an ice cream sundae, and then it allows our students to practice those social skills with students within their building. So it's a nice way to give back to our athletic programs, as well as meet that social component that our program really focuses on. So thank you.
Thank you for doing this for our students.
How many students are in that program?
So community-based instruction services all the students in the life skills and autistic support programs in the district. So each school has a different set. I don't know, we have like 12 students at the high school, probably another 10 to 12 at the middle school. McCain probably has maybe 5 to 8, and then Edinboro, again, 5 to 8 students on average.
Like ask the parents themselves, have kids in classes, what we might think might help them to be understand more than anybody what their vocational goals are. We were asking for maybe asking
She was asking about work sites, potential work sites. Yes, yeah, that input's always encouraged, and we'd appreciate any input from anybody on that.
You like send it home with a kid.
You guys really built something General McLane is proud of, and we know how hard you're working on all of it, and it continues to grow. So if I may say so, thank you. Dr. Lane, did you have anything else to add for the superintendent's report?
No, I did not.
All right. Well, then at this time, we're going to review and consider financial reports, accounts payable, cafeteria accounts payable as of March 2022, and accounts paid and cafeteria accounts paid prior to the board meeting in February 2022. Mr. Fenda, please take it away.
Okay, thank you. I'm going to try to share my screen so everybody can see what I'm talking about. Oh. Okay, thank you. There you are. You're looking at the treasurer summary report, and it shows the balances at the end of February. You can see in the general fund, the cash and investment balances were up about $600,000 from January to February, ending at about $18.4 million. Capital projects down a little bit from 7.5 to 6.5 million. And cafeteria was at $43,000. That's the two student activity accounts combined were at $112,000. This is the graph that shows the progression of the fund balance in that's the purple line at the top. And the red and green lines are the expenses and the revenues respectively at the bottom. That's a pretty typical pattern for the fund balance. It increases at the first 4 to 5 months of the year when tax collections are coming in, and then it starts trailing off towards the end of the year when the tax collections are over. So for the revenues, we have last year through the month of February, revenues were 23.4 million. This year, up a little bit, 23.5 million, and we have about $10.8 million remaining in the budget for this year. Expenditures were at 19.8 million last year to date, and up $1.5 million to 21.3 million this year. We have 16.9 million left in the budget. This is a list of expenses, and I apologize. It looks like it was cut off before the end of the report for some reason, so I can get that for you for next month. The list of payments going out the door tomorrow totals about $278,000. In the capital projects, we had a couple of disbursements, a couple smaller dollar disbursements, one about $10,000 for technology, about $1,700 for that payment to Wellert Corporation, who is helping us with our fuel tanks. And then the big one was $915,000. That's a second, I believe it's a second installment for the Erie County Tech School project, the building project. Cafeteria this month continues to have good financial numbers, primarily because of the federal subsidies that we're getting. You can see there the net income for the month. It was a positive $23,000 this year versus a loss of almost $13,000 last year. Year to date, $116,000 positive before any transfers. And last year it was negative $191,000. So cafeteria is doing decent this year. And but I will mention that I saw within this past week that the waivers that are in place this year for free meals for everybody and the increased subsidies from the federal government will end at the end of this year, June 30th. So expect some changes as we move into the fall for next year. Here's a list of payments made since the last board meeting, about $25,000 from the cafeteria fund. And then we have some more payments going out the door tomorrow, about $10,800. And US Foods is the big vendor, which is pretty typical. High school student activities, you can see there not a whole lot of activity for the month. A few disbursements, and the good news is you won't have to ask questions because we now have a list of payments that were made from each of the activity accounts. Here is the middle school. Middle school student activities. Not a whole lot of dollars going in and out. And again, we have a list of the payments, the checks that were written during the month of February from the middle school activity accounts. That's all the financials. Thank you.
So, motion to approve my precluding the one report that was incomplete. So approving everything we presented. Motion to approve.
Mr. Lofgren made a motion to approve the financial reports as presented. Was there a second? Is there any other discussion regarding or questions for Bill on that? And if not, all in favor to approve the financial reports? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Thank you, Bill. We're going to move on to committee reports. Policy co-curricular, Mrs. King. If Mrs. King or Mrs. Gould, I don't know how you guys are going to handle that.
No, it's her, but I'm trying to do it.
Okay.
It's very heavy. Can you hear me now? The committee recommends a motion to approve a second and final reading of the following school board policies. Policy 610, purchases subject to bid and quotation. Policy 611, purchases budgeted. Policy 626, federal fiscal compliance. Policy 336, personal necessity leave. And item E, the directors received and reviewed the copies of these policies at the February 9th, 2022 study session.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee moves for consideration of approval of a 2022-23 athletic supplemental contract as outlined in A and B.
Second. Discussion? I'm sorry. Yes. Yeah. Can you show me? Okay, thank you. Just making sure. All right, thank you. Go ahead. Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Could we please step back? What is it that we're saying here? I want to make sure I have this right. I want to make sure. I apologize. That was me taking the time I needed. Go ahead.
Okay, Mrs. Crow,
Yes.
Mrs. Gould,
Yes.
Mr. Ickes, Mrs. King,
Yes.
Mr. Lofgren,
Yes.
Mrs. Miller, Mr. Patullo,
Yes.
Mr. Scholes, and Dr. Weiss. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 yeses, 1 no, 2 abstains.
Okay, thank you. Motion passed.
The committee moves for consideration of approval of athletic volunteer assistance as outlined in A through C.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee moves for consideration of approval of changes made to the General McLane School District Health and Safety Plan as outlined in A through D.
Second. Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
That's it.
And that's all for Mrs. King. This is Mr. Lofgren, Finance and District Operations Committee.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair, or Mrs. Crowe. Long day already. So these first two items are a committee update based on us having a public committee here just before this meeting. And so I'm going to ad lib it. We'll see how it goes. But the first one was to follow up from a discussion at the study session last week where we discussed potentially identifying an amount for a bond to be able to move forward with, present something to the board this meeting. And based on the research and the feedback that Mr. Fenda has received, we do not have at this time an amount to move forward with for a bond. We will continue to get more information over the next month, and there will be potentially further discussions at the next study session. So there is nothing on the agenda tonight about approving a bond amount. The second item that was discussed involved the efforts to work to balance the budget to reduce the deficit at General McLane. Bill has worked to organize and consolidate all the different areas of suggestions, and we appreciate the work that he's been doing to pull all that together. There's still more to consider and more that he's looking for from the board as far as helping to augment or prioritize or organize those. So we'll continue to work to provide him that. But the main piece that I wanted to update the board on based on this discussion last week was that Bill is going to move forward with requesting or putting out an RFP, request for proposal, on our transportation department, the busing of our students. That is still at this stage merely gathering information. There is no direction or approval by the board to actually change how we do transportation. It is just going through the process to evaluate all possible aspects to help us close the deficit in our budget. So I'm glad to answer any questions on those two things, or someone on the committee can also answer or supplement. Any questions or supplements by those in the committee?
Well, I think that sums it up pretty good. The meeting we had, yeah.
All right, moving to the agenda items then. Number one, the committee moves to approve the 2022-23 Northwest Intermediate Unit number 5 IU budget as outlined in A through C.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee moves to purchase 3 gasoline 72-passenger model year 2023 buses from Bluebird Sales of Pittsburgh Incorporated Bluebird using 2022-2023 budgeted funds as outlined in A through C.
Discussion? Buses got a lot more expensive. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Just a second, I page away from it. Item number 3. The committee moves to authorize the Director of Business Operations to sell the following surplus vehicles at auction as outlined in A through D.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee regrettably moves to approve the following non-instructional employee resignation with intent to retire. Joanna DeClemente submitted a letter to retire from administrative specialist position effective March 31st after 14.7 years of service.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee moves to ratify the following non-instructional employee resignation as outlined in A.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee moves to ratify the following non-instructional employee hirings as outlined in A through E.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee moves to approve the following non-instructional employee transfer as outlined in A.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee moves to ratify the following non-instructional unpaid leaves of absence as outlined in A through C.
Discussion? I'm sorry. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee also moves to approve the following non-instructional unpaid leave of absence as outlined in A and B.
Discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
Thank you. That concludes the committee report.
Thank you, Mr. Lofgren. Curriculum and instruction, Mrs. Miller. Hold on.
Am I okay? Keep moving this way. Am I good now? Okay. I'll stand way back here. That's okay. The committee moves to approve the consideration of ratification of additions to the 2021-2022 substitute teacher list as outlined in A.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee approves the consideration of approval of retirements as outlined in A through E.
Is there a second? Discussion?
I have to make an amendment here. Mr. Randy White has 25 years of service and Mrs. Linda Bloomquist has 34 years of service.
Well, then I'm sorry. We'll just have to take them off and deal with it next year. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
We can remove it.
Can we do a roll call for each of these positions, please? Yeah. All joking aside, we're very, very thankful for everyone that we have, but our administration, boy, Randy, you're going to be missed. And if we could vote no, we definitely would never let you go. And I believe every parent in your building would always, through all the years would also feel the same way. So thank you. Not that everyone doesn't deserve to be thanked, but you do have something special.
Speak to the three of the high school, they're dedicated.
That's probably why Bloomquist is leaving because.
Yeah, going with Randy.
Sorry, we got off track. It's just a hard one. Sometimes it's harder than others. Is there any other discussion? I apologize. Any other discussion? Yes, sir. Would you ask that so that we can hear you?
What I said was, what happens if we refuse to allow them to retire? Do they have to stay? I know the answer already.
Is it a question to the solicitor, I think?
Yeah.
Can we say reluctantly? Reluctantly?
Yeah, I just said you can't make them work against their will.
All joking aside, but many thanks to follow. All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. Thank you all. Thanks to all five for their many dedicated years of service.
The committee moves to approve the consideration of acceptance of tuition students for the 2022-2023 school year as outlined in A through B.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee approves the consideration of approval of curriculum revision and adoption for integrated science as outlined in A through B.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee moves to approve the consideration of approval of the curriculum revision and adoption for applications of science as outlined through A and B.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
The committee moves to approve the consideration of approval of FMLA leave for, as outlined in A through C.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed.
And sadly, we are moving, the committee moves to the consideration of approval of resignation for Mrs. Katie Waddell.
Discussion? All in favor? Aye. Opposed, same sign. Motion passed. And if that's all. Kind of need to hear that. Okay, so sorry, thank you. We're moving on to the other reports, intermediate unit number 5, Mr. Patullo.
Hello. Hey, gang. The intermediate unit board met on February 23rd of this year. We obviously we approved the budget, as you see, $65 million budget. No increase in district contribution. There were some reports on the RCI program and some discussion about a summer program to address learning loss and continuity of education, which are both good things. Some personnel items. We had a substitute list with 13 names on it, which is good because we need subs. There was a new position added at the Career Tech Center in Crawford that went from a half-day position to a full-day position. That position carries a salary of $30,000 a year. And there was a proposition to eliminate 2 part-time occupational therapists in favor of 1 full-time occupational therapist, citing increasing caseloads. This is for early intervention and possibly a full-time clerical position to deal with a lot of the paperwork that comes through there. The OT early interventionists, our caseload is currently among the 3 counties, 1,200 students. Job description approved, the adult ed coordinator, a new health and safety plan approved, mask optional, couple policy second readings. We welcome 2 new board members, Joe Micah from Girard and Dave Renna from Harbor Creek, replacing board members that resigned last month. The grab and go meal was a market improvement over last month. The sandwich had several slices of meat instead of just the one. And I'm happy to report that the root beer float cake made a comeback. So that was highly approved. That concludes my report. Thank you.
I'm sorry, any other questions for Brad? You did give us the budget, by the way. That was something you had emailed over to us like a while ago, so thank you on that. Yeah, we just voted on it. Thank you, Brad. Erie County VOTEC, Dr. Wise.
Thank you, Madam President. I attended the Joint Operating Committee on February 24. It's a beehive of activity around the construction. The laboratories are being relocated regularly on a kind of domino effect as work goes on while school continues full time. And they're capitalizing on the Adult Skills Center. I don't know if you're familiar with the plant or not, but there's a very large adult training program there that significantly large building, which isn't actually being used for much. Enrollment is down 22 students over the course of the semester from 707 to 685. And this program for fall of 2022 is sports therapy and exercise science, which already has 30 enrollees. The notion of the tech I was unfamiliar with in the districts. If someone has an inadequate performance, they get an improvement plan. That certainly happens at the VOTEC. However, you can also get an enrollment, an improvement plan if your laboratory falls under a certain number of students. You must have a minimum of 12 students in your morning session and your afternoon session, a minimum of 24. If that happens for whatever reasons, then you are assigned an improvement plan to improve enrollment in your program, or it can be removed. The remediation is that those professors, as they're able, go to the various high schools with the VOTEC enrollment coordinator and attempt to persuade more students in our high schools to take their program at the tech. So it's a kind of a do or die proposal. It doesn't turn out they're doing a poor job, there's not enough customers. Chair Sevich has been promoted. He was high school principal for a very long time. When the previous director left, he became acting director, and last month we promoted him to the regular director of the program. And in keeping with Brad's report, dinner was lasagna, Caesar salad, and cannolis, and the food was very, very good. So I served on the IU board for a long time. The food is much better, Brad, at the tech, I have to tell you. That's it.
Well, they do have a, cuisine.
Well, exactly.
Yeah. You guys want to switch it up, talk about it another time. Anyway, is that it? Thank you, sir. Mr. Lofgren, Legislative Counsel.
Yes, thank you. I got 3 items tonight for the legislative activities. Bill has already mentioned one, which is that the completed budget passed at the federal level will not include the free breakfast and lunches, free meals for schools for next year. So we will be back to watching our costs there in the food program. The other 2 items, the first one I just continue to draw your attention to is that closing arguments completed in the school funding trial. That is not the final word. That is at the Commonwealth Court. So once that verdict is announced, there's extremely likely to be an appeal from there to this Pennsylvania Supreme Court. But the funding trial is just a very intense potential for a significant shift in how schools are funded in Pennsylvania. My final item is a mention of some regulatory changes related to cyber that are moving forward. I just wanted to mention them because they are trying to make the cyber programs just a little tighter in how they are done, but it's because it's regulatory only. It is not a dramatic change or an effect to the cyber programs. So just in case you get any questions about, oh, what was this new cyber regulations? They're just snibbling around the edges. It's not a dramatic change in how cyber is managed in the Commonwealth. That concludes my report for today.
Thank you, Mr. Lofgren. General McLane Foundation, we did have a meeting on last Thursday, March 11th. We did have a resignation of one of our trustees, Becky Okel, who was also the secretary, so it was a significant loss. Trustee Amy Eisert stepped up and was appointed secretary until Mrs. Okel's term is up in July, and then we're still in a need. We have a need for a trustee. So if anyone is interested in serving and being a part of the foundation, it's it's a really wonderful organization. Bill confirmed last week, our funds are up to $942,000. That's just great news, and it grows. It seems like it grows pretty regularly. One thing to mention, or a couple things to mention, we do have a couple new funds that are very important. We have the Corey Merzak and the Lorraine McLaughlin Memorials is where we were receiving some donations in their names or not, just unmarked for the foundation use. And we had consideration and approved, obviously unanimously, the consideration of the Be Happy Scholarship in memory of Elise McEldowney. And so, that occurred, and we expect, and the family's going to participate in that as well. So that's good news. The Holiday Arts Fair is still up in the air. Plan's going to have to be worked out. Really need some people, if they're interested, to work and be a part of this, because each endowed fund received just a little over $400 this last Holiday Arts Fair. That is the scholarship of many of our donations. Some of them are, $200 to $500. We are keeping it endowed with just that fundraiser, and then add it to the golf outing, which is also a very exciting event. Those two events really are helping to sustain a lot of our funds. So we definitely need more help if anyone's interested. Mr. Menno, you had some really good news on the golf outing, which is scheduled. Did you want to touch on that, or do you just want me to throw that out there real quick that we have a new chairperson? But that's some life into that organization. John Hansen is going to come back and run and be the chair of our golf outing. That is, I think, I don't know if we've mid-July. Oh yeah, at Culbertson's. And that concludes the report. It was a very active month for the foundations, and there's a lot of good things to report. And that concludes that report. And then we're going to move on to other business. Because Bill always does the two fingers. No? Okay. Now we will have recognition of visitors for school-related matters, for the items that might be related to the agenda, but or not actually a topic. We have Michelle Repman is Pipers, and that is an individual we're going to hear from. This is the end when you get 3 minutes, Michelle.
Yeah.
We do know that we're recognizing you as a speaker tonight, and you'd state your name just for the audience, and then your time begins.
Yes, Michelle Repman. Thanks again. I had so much stuff, I had to sign up twice, so to go over. One of the things that I was interested in when you were talking about replacement of the HVAC systems is, did you pull the maintenance reports to determine which actual units need to be replaced? As a daughter of a father who was an HVAC technician, there's a lot of maintenance that is required on these. And if you're not doing your routine maintenance, then you're wearing out the life of the machine, of the unit before it might be done. So I would request, if you want to save money before you start replacing and ripping out machines or units, that might cost upwards of $100,000, that you actually see if it really needs replaced, or you can actually decide, go through the maintenance reports, when the last time it's maintained, what year is it, find out what the life and expectancy is of those units before you start spending unneeded money to replace systems that might be in good working condition. And that's the same thing with the roof. I know the one roof has a leak in it. So yes, you want to fix a leaky roof. But in terms of actually spending your money, you should be running this like a private business, not a government entity that just says, hey, let's just throw some money on a new roof when we really don't need one. Or, hey, let's replace 20 HVAC units that cost $100,000 each, upwards of, when we might only need to replace 5 instead of 20. So you really need to start looking at those maintenance reports, getting and finding what you need to replace instead of just saying we want to replace them. They still might be good. I mean, that's just called logic, common sense, critical thinking, things that independent thought, you're in a deficit of $3.5 million. Do what you can to maybe make that money go where it needs to go. I did have a couple other things that I wanted to bring up. The mental health and all the additional problems that came through the pandemic. I would like to talk to some of the school board and maybe some of the teachers about what the plan is going to be for GM to help address these anxiety issues, the fear issues that have been indoctrinated into our children by not by their own regard. Also, same thing with the teachers. If they need and staff, if they need help, they should definitely be able to get that help over the fear of working in their environment. They worked with students that have been sick in viruses for many years, and I think a lot of it was a lot of fear mongering. That was just on that.
Michelle, we're at 30 seconds.
Okay.
Do you want to, would you want to go ahead?
I have a few more things if that's
Let's go ahead and
okay.
make a motion for another 2 minutes. So moved. All in favor? Aye. Go ahead.
Okay, thank you. So I would like to work or give you guys some advice in how to or work with some of the board members and the students and the teachers to figure out how we can help these kids that have been affected from the pandemic and hopefully never see another mask on a child unless they want to wear one. Okay. The other thing I want to follow up from something from last year in December. It was a very contentious meeting because we had a lot of issues, especially with the one staff member and the social media posts. I would like General McLane to relook at their social media policy. I don't feel that it's strong enough. This is something that should be done on a regular basis. I change my employee handbook every 2 years. I make updates to it, and I do feel that the social media policy is weak at most, and it can be updated, and you might even want to do that yearly as things evolve in the electronic social media world. Okay. The other thing I would ask is following up from December is the politics in the school. When I spoke to the board in executive session in December, I said that we needed to remove the politics from the school. And I am very serious about that. We need to be working on critical thinking, independent thought, logic, and teaching these kids. That's what they should be. That should be part of the curriculum in teaching these kids and taking the politics out of the school. Unless it's a government class or a civics class, there should not be politics in the school, including flags. The only flags the school should be flying are the American flag, the state flag, and if we have a school flag. But all other flags should be removed that are politically motivated from the school. It causes too much tension between the students, the parents, and the teachers. Remember, one person's political thought might not be another person's political thought. We're all equal, we're all Americans, and this is a school setting, and it does need to be stuck to what it is.
Thank you. Your allotted time for speaking is up. We appreciate you engaging the board with us this evening. We thank you for speaking.
Thank you.
Is there anyone else who's going to address the board for a matter that is not on the agenda? If not, then, okay, thank you. Notification, you know what I have? Notifications of meetings held since the last regularly scheduled board meeting of February 16th. We had a regular monthly study session on March the 9th. We also had policy and co-curricular activities subcommittee meeting on March the 9th, finance and district operations subcommittee meeting on March the 9th, curriculum and instruction subcommittee meeting on March the 9th. As well as, I think it's appropriate to mention that this evening we also had a finance and district operations subcommittee meeting this evening, March 16th, to follow up what we couldn't finish last week. And that is all the notifications. Is there anything else, or is there a motion to adjourn? Oh, I'm sorry. I said other business, but I never looked this way, and I can tell that Mrs. King has something to say. Can you give her, I don't know if the people in the back can hear.
I was not present at our policy committee meeting, and I know we discussed, based on feedback that we heard, the policy regarding addressing the board. So I was hoping if we didn't talk about that at the study session, we could just kind of reiterate what was discussed. Can we do that? I wasn't there. So
I'm going to defer
I'm not the
to,
person
yeah.
to do it. We did. Next month. Okay.
Yeah, I was going to say, it will be, the revised policy 903 will be on for a first reading at the next meeting.
Perfect.
That'll be updated. Yep.
Thank you.
Okay, now, was there any other questions, other business? And if not, was there a motion to adjourn?
He's not here, we can't adjourn.
Thank you, sir. And I'm sorry, I thought you had something else to say. So I'm just going to take that as a motion and a second. Thank you. Sorry, all in favor? Aye. Thank you all. Thank you all for coming. Thank you very much for coming. Yeah, let's clap for Randy.